Hey, what's going on? We have a very amazing guest today. This is awesome. I want to go ahead and get his introduction in, talk about his company a little bit, and then we'll get right into the full interview. I want to go ahead and introduce him now. Crispin Hands, what's going on, man?
Hey man, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming on. Always appreciate it. So I heard about Lionshead Pro Entertainment. I wanted to know a little bit more about it. What do you guys do, and how big's the studio, and who's all there?
Um, yeah, the so I started Lion's Head quite a while ago, like 20 years ago, and it was mostly just me until 2016, and then I started realizing that it's kind of dumb to keep trying to do everything myself when there's so many amazing, talented people, in my circle. So I started hiring people, and we're up to I think almost 25 now. Um, and we do pretty much anything to do with game audio you can possibly imagine. So we'll do stuff from like, hey, parachute us in, a game's just, trying to finish and they need a little extra help getting it out the door. They need some extra bodies. We'll provide that because we've got, our crew is super experienced. Um, but we'll also do stuff from like the get go, like, hey, hey, we're starting this new game. Awesome. We'll come in and we'll help design the audio from the get go. So like come up with an entire vision statement and like a full schedule and like, how much it's going to cost, like all the budget and stuff like that. We basically, we help any game studio at any stage of the project. Our favorite way to do it is to start from the beginning because that's where we can really truly make some impact and like drive the direction of stuff. But we've done lots of parachute in at the last minute and like, hey, we need you to replace all the audio in our game. Okay, we can do that, or just fix these areas or do these cinematics. Um, so we do like music, we do sound design, we do implementation. So it's funny because like a lot of gamers are getting pretty savvy about like what kind of game engines are out there, and they're starting to understand like like how people are building animations and VFX. Well, it's the same with audio. Like when we do the sound design and when we do the music, it's like yeah, we do all that, but then you have to get it into the game, and that's a big part of our job. So we use like middleware. Like Unreal and Unity and WYs and Fmod and stuff like that, and we yeah, our guys come in and make it all work and hook it all up and make it respond to the game in the right way. And yeah, it's some would argue that that's like easily more than 50% of the job is actually the implementation and how that works. It's and debugging it and all that stuff and tuning it and making it sound awesome. So we also do voice casting and directing, and we have an amazing writer on the team, Lonnie. Um, who's actually just like uh, got one of his books picked up by AMC, and it's going to be starring Norman Reedus, which is like pretty darn incredible.
Wow,
So
that's
Lonnie
amazing.
Nadler is his name. Yeah, yeah, he's an absolute beast, and we have some like super killer composers, and our we have a bunch of like senior kind of lead guys. So oftentimes it's like when we want to have like one person to sort of be like a lead on the ground with the game and with the developer and handle the day to day and like work with all the more junior staff. And so I've got a guy named Toby Hulse who's done a bunch of work with us, and he's been at it for 10 years. He's phenomenal. And similarly, a guy named Rashid Hilly, um, and he was at United Front Games and at EA, and he's been doing great work for us with Blackbird, and Matt McCamley, who's worked on like um, Alien Isolation, and he worked with me on the Dark Knight video game that was sadly canceled, and he's worked on like he worked with on Devil May Cry and Creative Assembly. He worked on the Total War series. Just an absolute beast. Um, and oh my god, I'm completely forgetting like super key people right now. I'm so embarrassed. Yeah, and then like we've got like old school veterans, like one of our guys, Frank Fogno. Um, he's been doing games and films since the '80s, and he's just super talented guy. It's so awesome. He when I first started at EA, he was a mentor to me, and having him on the team is like just this huge, huge honor. So it's like, anyways, I'm shortchanging a lot of people right now because there's a whole crew of people. We got an audio programmer who's killer, um, but and we've got a producer who's like worked in animation. Our producer was actually the VP of creative at Disney for about a year. Our producer Kevin Gamble, and he kind of keeps everything running and keeps me in line and all that good stuff. But yeah, so it's a big crew, lots of super amazing, passionate people doing awesome work, and I just kind of like I sit back and take a lot of credit. It's an honor.
Oh, that is awesome, man. It sounds like that you were part of a really cool studio, and it's like a team, a very cohesive team that works together to get everything out there, get the projects done. And it sounds like that, you guys dabble in music composition, you dabble in writing, voice narration, and acting. So it sounds like that you guys actually do a whole lot more than just make music. And a lot of people will probably be surprised at the amount of work that your studio probably puts out there into many, many games.
Thank you, man. That's very kind. Yeah, we do a lot. One of the things we do probably the most of is sound design. We do a lot of trailers. We work. Um, we're very lucky. Sometimes industry titans like Charles Deenan and his crew, Source Sound, they hire us to help out on trailer stuff too. So if you look up Source Sound, they are kind of the number one as far as game and often in some cases film trailers are concerned. They're pretty hot, and yeah, so we go out and record, everything from like gunfire to creatures and design it all up and make cool sounds with it. So it's it's a fun it's the best job in the world. We're very lucky.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I do have one question for you. Do you happen to know the guy that says world premiere on the Xbox videos?
Oh god, no, is that I don't. I got to be honest, I have no idea. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know him either, but everybody, once they hear him, they all make the joke, and every time there's like a new game trailer, like
World
world,
premiere.
yeah, they everybody does it like on almost every podcast now because of that one guy.
That's hilarious. Now I kinda wanna, like, go and listen and, like, imitate it everywhere, and every time we release something, I'm gonna be the world premiere.
Yes, yes, oh, that would be so awesome. Well,
Awesome,
yeah.
man.
So right after this, we're gonna go ahead and get into the interview, and I thank you for this very great introduction and introducing the company. And of course, if there's anyone that you ever want me to add in later on in the video, we can certainly do that in the information if it comes to mind.
Thank
But
you.
thank you so much for coming on and doing this introduction with us, Crispin.
Oh, my pleasure, and, it's, yeah, I'm just really grateful to be here. Thanks for having me on board.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Right on.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to a very, very special interview that we have today with the musical composer of many video games, including Gears 4, Gears 5, some film, TV, and theater. And I'll introduce him in just a second. We have the regular panel, Gears 5, some film, TV, and theater. And I'll introduce him in just a second. We have the regular panel, Gears 5,
I'm getting
some
some
film.
feedback.
I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay. I'm gonna
Yeah.
throw in one connection too. I did compose music on Gears 5. I didn't compose any on Gears 4, and our main composer on Gears 5 was Ramin Djawadi.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's something to know.
Yeah.
Um, looks like I fixed the feedback loop. I had some type of weird
Okay.
feedback loop. That happens sometimes, but I apologize. Um, and we have Crispybomb with us on the panel.
What's up? What's up, everybody? Super excited. Yeah, Gears 5 composition was really good. Just saying.
We have Flamish on the panel.
Hello, guys. Yeah, you know me, the Belgium sensation, Flamish. So, welcome.
And we have Midway Monster, who might be jumping in later, but the special guest of the moment. How do I say your Twitter handle? Crispatron?
Yeah.
What's going on, man?
Happy to be here. Hi, everyone.
Um,
Yeah, I'm stoked. You guys know AJ, who did Battletoads, and I know him through you, or so I know you through him. And yeah, we were just talking about how awesome he is. So hey, AJ.
yeah, hey AJ, if you're watching this, thanks, man, for getting us in touch. And oh man, we're so excited. So, what is the best nickname to call you, or what do you like to go by on
You
the
can just
show?
call me Crispin. But like you can call me whatever you like. Honestly,
Okay.
people call me Crispy, Crispin, Crunch, whatever. It's all good.
Okay, sounds good. Well, Crispin, the first thing I wanted to ask you is like a little bit of your history and what got you into music in the first place. Usually everyone has some type of moment where they're like, "Oh, this is what I want to do," and then that they go for it. What was your moment where you're like, "This is what I want to do"?
That moment was kind of special for me, but not. It's probably not the typical moment because a lot of people like they see Star Wars or they see some amazing movie and they're like, I want to do music like that. And I didn't think that that was something I could do. It wasn't even something that crossed my mind. But so I was studying comp sci and I went to a party. It was a Thanksgiving weekend, and this moment's special for me because not only did it change the course of my entire life, but I met my best friend now of 30 years. And so I'm at this party, and as you do, I had some drinks, and there was this dude playing guitar on a waterbed in a bedroom in this basement of this big house we were at. And he was surrounded by cute girls, and I was like, well, that's just where I want to be. And I sat down, and I was not very sober. I got to be honest. And he was playing really cool music, and like one thing that I was really lucky with is that my parents had great taste in music, and so we had this incredible record collection growing up. And yeah, I said records because I'm really old. And we yeah, and he was playing. I can't even. It was like Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin or something. And I sat down and I started singing along, like a total jerk, super rude. Um, but instead of getting mad, this guy, Dino DeNicolo, you should look him up, an incredible musician. He's very Italian. And like, he just like hits me. And he's like, that's cool. Keep doing that. And he keeps playing. And like within 10 minutes, I was like, this is the best I've ever felt in my life. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was harmonizing because I didn't really even know what harmonizing was because I didn't really have a proper music education. And like the next morning, I got up and I was like, I want to be in Dino's band. And like what are you missing? And he's like, well, we don't have a keyboardist. So I was like, so I ran out and bought like a crappy Casio keyboard and started learning. And I was terrible, like absolutely terrible. I never got to be in his band, rightly so. But over the years, I just kept playing and playing. And then what happened was I was in some bands and stuff, and we were all terrible. And then I realized that, you know, sequencers were kind of starting to be a thing, and like computer music was starting to be a thing. This was like early 90s. And then I realized that like with a sequencer I could be the whole band and write every part if I wanted, which was kind of cool because I kept on hearing stuff in my head but I didn't know how to communicate it. So I just started messing around, and then I kind of just started accumulating gear. I had this day job at a law firm, and I just all my money went into buying or renting gear. And this friend of mine who was going to Vancouver Film School came to my place one time. He's like, "Whoa, I didn't know you had all this stuff. Do you want to do music for our student film?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course. I could totally do that." I had no idea what I was doing, and so I signed up to do it, ran out and bought some books because, like, the internet was still, like, fledgling back then. I mentioned I'm pretty old, and I'm going through the books and, like, learning stuff, and I had to, like, buy a VCR and all this crap, and I did the first, film, and the guy, who'd hired them to do the film, he paid me $300, and it was for 20 minutes of music, which is not a lot of money for 20 minutes of music, but at that moment, I was like, "I just got paid to write music. This is the best day ever." And not long after that, I got a friend, at the bank I used to do banking with for the law firm. She was like, "Hey, you're into video games, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, you should meet my brother. He works at EA." I was like, "There's an EA in Vancouver? What?" She's like, "Yeah, yeah, he can get you a tour." I was like, "Oh my god, sign me up." So they gave me a tour, and I took the tour, and I was like, "I gotta do whatever I can to get in here. This is the coolest thing ever." And so I ended up walking in with a cassette demo of my music, which was not great, and I got laughed out of the building by the audio director at the time. Again, rightly so, and I turned right back around, and I got a job in the QA department as a tester. And I went from, like, this pretty cushy job at this law firm to getting minimum wage, and my boss was, like, 6 years older than me, and he's also a really good friend now. But yeah, it was crazy, and I just, like, worked my way slowly into the audio department. Any chance I'd get, I'd write every bug that I could think of to do with audio, and the audio guys were like, "Oh, here he is again. All right." And they finally took pity on me, and yeah, and I just learned from there. So it was cool, and it gave me access to gear that I never would have afforded otherwise. And but I got, like, amazing mentorship. Like, my first mentor was this guy, Alistair Hurst. I think he's at Amazon Games now. Um, but yeah, we were working on Need for Speed back then, like the very first Need for Speeds, and so we were recording cars and recording collisions and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I was like, "What is this life I've gotten into?" And it's just gone from there.
Man, that is awesome. That is really cool because no matter how many times somebody told you no, you found a way back in. That's like that is a lot of passion and determination right there, man.
I think it's like a combination. There's definitely passion and determination, maybe some desperation as well. Like, I think it was just like, you know, I'm not gonna insult the law firm I work for because they're, like, super kind for me, and hilariously, they're actually now my lawyers. They work for me now, but um, yeah, I it really showed me what I didn't want to do. And when you see those two things and you can see the opportunity, you're like, why would you stop? Like, you don't. What do you got to lose? You just keep pushing on. And I it's so cheesy, but I read this quote a long time ago, about I'm gonna mangle it now, so I'm not even gonna try. But it's basically, it's like, the number one factor in success is perseverance. It's like, it's not genius. Like, genius, unrequited genius is, like, so common. It's pretty much a proverb. And it's not talent. It's not connections. It's perseverance. And, like, the person who perseveres will always go further than the person who doesn't. I mean, it's just, like, simple math, really. So I figured, like, if I'm gonna do something right, I better do that. So
That's awesome, man. Crispy, did you have any questions you wanted to ask?
I mean, I think that just sums it up. Clearly, you went from the bottom and worked your way up, and to have a somewhat lucrative job and to move into this space and start at the bottom, that takes a lot of humbleness, and clearly you willed yourself to be where you're at now, and that's really awesome.
thanks, man. I don't know if it took humbleness, because, to be honest, I think sometimes, like, you get humbled a lot. That's the thing that happened for sure. It still happens all the time, and I would say that I'm more humble now than I was then, even though I'm talking about myself nonstop right now. But it was like, um, it almost took, like, an unreasonable belief in yourself to keep going when everything's, like, saying, "No, you can't do this." But I would just say, like, anybody else who wants to do this, just just believe, don't stop, like keep pushing, because it's like it's that thing. It's perseverance always wins. That's the thing that always wins.
For anybody watching right now, you might see that the cameras might have just adjusted. Midway joined the chat. What's going on,
Hey,
Midway?
Midway.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah.
you.
All right. Yeah, I just got off work. Glad to come in and hear about Crispy Tron's dream project in Back Sports 2.
Oh yeah, that was actually a really fun project. That was with Rare, and man, they are an amazing crew out there. It was a thing where they brought me on fairly late into the game, and I got to meet their whole audio team, including Robin Beanland, who I believe is the real Beano on Twitter. That guy is a talented guy and one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And we became good friends, and like, yeah, it was kind of a magical experience. Like I basically moved to England for several months, um, and just hung out with that crew, and we got this game out the door, and we were just making hilarious sounds and recording hilarious dialogue. And Rare is really, really amazing at focusing on fun, and it feels like they're really good about that, just even in the day-to-day with work. So it was never a dull moment, that's for sure. And their studio is wild. I don't know if you guys have ever seen pictures or videos of that place, but it's an amazing place. It's out in the countryside, and you get there and it's like you're going to a James Bond villain's compound, because you drive through all these little country lanes with high hedgerows. You pass this little tiny village called Twycross, and it like literally has one dude sitting on a bench, and he's there every day and he waves at everybody. And then there's like one little shop, and you pull up to this through these fields to this gateway, and there's a guard post, and you can't see inside. It's all like smoked glass, and there's a camera looking at you. And then somebody somewhere like up the chain decides whether or not you're cool, and then the gates slowly open, and you go up this winding laneway past like ponds with swans and geese, and then there's like foxes and rabbits running around and pheasants through these trees. And then you come out and there's like, oh, there's the studio, and it's these 5 kind of, they call them barns, but they're really beautiful, these interconnected barns, and they're connected by these glass and wood walkways. So you walk out, and the walls are glass, and you can see like over the rolling fields, like it's like something out of Disney. And underneath the walkways, there's also glass in the floor where a stream runs, and you can see like goldfish swimming under the glass. And I'm like, what? What is life? It was the coolest thing ever. So yeah, getting to hang out with that crew in that place was it was a dream.
How did you came in contact with Rare?
So I was working with, oh man, it's a little convoluted, but I'll try and make it quick. I was working with a Microsoft studio here called Big Park in Vancouver, with my good friend Will Moselle, and they had been contracted sort of through Microsoft. They'd been contracted to Rare to help Rare get the game out the door. Like before we started rolling, we were talking about how so many games are like really handled by a lot of indies or smaller studios supporting the bigger studios in their efforts, right? And anyways, what had happened is that the audio director, Robin Beanland, he really wanted to focus on music, and he wanted somebody to just handle like being audio director. And he even kind of contacted me like beforehand saying, hey, it sounds like we might be working together. And I was like, what? And I didn't know yet. And yeah, they basically flew me over, did a bunch of like back and forth interviewing, and they decided that I was the guy, and it was such an honor. It was so great. And so basically I was directing the team here in Vancouver, which was smaller, obviously, and then the team there in the UK, and then going out and drinking beers with Robin and the gang, at the end of each week. It was awesome. Such a great experience.
Um, what would you say is the hardest challenge in your job? The hardest thing that you ever, maybe the hardest thing that you ever had to do, or something that you found very difficult until you overcame it?
Oh man. Um, I think the hardest ongoing challenge is like, you know, I don't think there's a single person in this industry that doesn't put their heart and soul into stuff. You know, we all do it. And what happens is so often, you know, somebody higher up's like, no, I'm not into it. And so, you know, you've like sweated blood and given so much love into this thing, and somebody just says, nah, I don't like it. I want it to be more like this. And so you have to just start again. And, you know, early on, that was pretty devastating. And you learn like, okay, you just got to have a thick skin. You can't take it personally. It's not about you. It's about the game. And sometimes they know stuff that you don't know. And sometimes you work with people who don't know, but they're higher up. And so you have to do something that you know isn't going to be as good. And you just have to suck it up and do it anyways, because it's ultimately the relationships matter more because they lead to uh, doing greater things in the long run. But it was, yeah, that's an ongoing challenge. Like, it's like, you know, every time you see the blank screen and you got to create something, you're like, oh god, you know, what if it sucks? So what if they shoot it down? And you just got to do it anyways, and they might shoot it down, you know, and then you got to do it again until it's right. So that's tough, but it's like, it's kind of cool in the same way though too, because it's like it's really good for your ego over the long term to, like, you know, just keep you real. And it's also really good to like, whether you, because it's like, first you have to get past the gauntlet of like, you know, does the client like the stuff, or does this producer like it, or whoever. um and then you have to get it past the fans, you know. And ultimately we're always doing this for the fans, you know. We want to make the fans happy, because I'm a gamer too, you know. So we're, you know, I want stuff to be good. And then, you know, when you get people, you know, YouTube is a tough place sometimes. And, you know, hear people being like, this is garbage, I hate this, or whatever. You're like, oh, but I worked so hard. But you know what, after years of, you know, kind of getting the beat down, you're like, it's cool, you know. Not everyone's going to like it. The client likes it, and most of the fans are into it. So I'm happy, you know. It's like, ultimately you got to love what you put out.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, especially on YouTube and the internet, there's a lot of people out there that unfortunately these days will just say something negative because they think it's going to get
Yeah.
them clicks or follows. And it's not even like they mean to be, it's not even like they mean what they say. They just think, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
going to look cool for saying this." You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's frustrating. Although, you know what? It's funny. Sometimes you see these negative comments, and you're like, you know what? She's got a point, or he's got a point, or whatever. And you know, like, I'm going to think about that next time. And you know, it's cool. Like, feedback is good. It's just that, yeah, what you're talking about, you know, the people who just want to get the clicks and stir up some stuff. It's like, you know, what are you really doing here? You're not really bringing anything to the table.
You're obviously more responsive to somebody that's going to give you criticism when they actually have like an actual bullet point kind of reasoning of doing it, instead of a guy just going, "This is trash."
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it, you know, it's like, and everyone has their perspective, right? You know, it's like, and I mean, Gears, I've been a Gears fan since Gears 1, so getting to work on it was a dream come true. Um, but you know, like, sometimes fans, there's way bigger fans than me, that's for sure. And you know, they'll know stuff, or they'll be super passionate about stuff. I'm like, yeah, okay, got to think about that. It was really cool getting to do music on the fifth one, because the fourth one I wasn't involved with music. Um, and I will say, without fear of kind of bragging, that I'm on the audio team on Gears. I was the biggest Gears fan. Like, I'm big Gears nerd. Um, so it was so cool to actually be able to see some of the criticism from Gears 4. And like, lots of people like the Gears 4 music, but it was like getting to see what people were like not loving. And and also there was lots of stuff where it's like people love, Kevin Rapel's and Steve Jablonski's scores for, Gears 1 and then Gears 2 and 3, and rightly so. Those are phenomenal scores. And so, we made a big point on Gears 5 of like we're gonna bring some of that music back in, the right spots. Just to if nothing else, is like ghosts of the past. So we worked that into a lot of places. In some places you actually have to really listen to hear it. Like if you play the beginning of Gears 5 and you're on Azura where Gears 3 ended, the ambient music in there, I wrote in the actual Azura theme to that, and it's like if you listen, you'll hear that line that's like from the stuff that Jablonski did in 3.
Yeah, that's incredible because clearly I can tell, being a huge Gears fan, that somebody at least was a Gears fan working on 5. You get that heavy gravity of the situation. This-
Crispy, I think
just to get
your mic's cutting out again.
Yeah.
cutting out.
Yeah.
And yeah, Crispin, sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but can you maybe like refresh your webcam because it's a little bit laggy?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That
Do you
might
want me
not
to
be-
turn off my webcam? Will that help the speed?
No,
It
you're
could
the
be, yeah.
star.
It could be just the way the internet's been lately, because everybody's at home now these days, with what's going on in the world. So sometimes I think there's bottlenecks on the ISPs.
Definitely.
Yeah, good.
We want to see that moneymaker.
That's
I-
Flamish.
But just tell.
I was complaining about Discord, and this is what it did to me.
They sniped you. So, to be honest,
Yeah,
like the one thing that I can really do is like if I'm taking a break from Gears 4, I can literally listen to the start menu music while I'm just like chilling. Like it's I love the low
for Gears
undertones. I
4.
love it, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So that and I love that track too. That's Ramin Djawadi. And for anyone who doesn't know, I'm sure there's very few who don't know, but he's a composer of Game of Thrones and Westworld and Iron Man. He's phenomenal, and it was such an honor to work with that guy. And he's also one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He's just like this total sweetheart, super accommodating, super smart, and he really gets it quickly. So it's not surprising that he's so successful doing what he does. Yeah, it was such an education to work with that guy. It's really cool.
Flamish, you have any questions? You look like you're thinking about something over there.
Yeah, I'm thinking about something, but it's like an entirely different topic because I'm so interested in this with like the newer generation of consoles that you were talking about just before the show, right? And we're hearing a lot of stuff like 3D audio, Dolby Atmos and stuff like that. Can you maybe explain a little bit more about that? Because that's something I'm really interested in. But like from a composer standpoint, that's like entirely different to hear.
Yeah. So for me, one of the ways that I kind of helped myself get in to do more composition was to do lots of audio stuff as well. So like lots of sound design and lots of implementation, and just like I figured that if I could get hired on more projects, I'd have more of a chance of getting hired to do music, if that makes sense. So I actually became pretty passionate about doing sound design, and yeah, like on Gears 4, I didn't touch music. I was actually doing like creature sounds and weapons and environment sounds. So like if you guys have heard the juvies in Gears 4, the little guys that go, oh, that crazy thing, that's me. That
is awesome.
That's like partly my voice through a snorkel. And the like a bunch of the big critters, like the crazy snatcher, like we had a lot of fun making those sounds. And it's such a cool universe to make sounds for. But we're always looking for, as I was saying earlier, like we want the game to be the best it can possibly be for the fans, because we're fans too, and we're constantly trying to find ways to make it better, to make it a cooler experience. So Dolby Atmos comes along, and we're like, holy smokes! Not only do we have surround, on this level now, we can have speakers overhead. So when a helicopter goes overhead, it actually goes overhead. The sound of it, and um, you know, it just opens up another dimension for us. So, and one of the things that we run into a lot is we have like a mix. There's a lot of information we're trying to present to the player with sound, and especially like in multiplayer, but even in single player, you need to know where your enemies are, and sound plays a huge role in that. And you need to know what those enemies are. It's like if you hear that there's like a snatcher over there, you got to get out of the way because it's going to spike you, and you got to get cover, etc. Uh, and if you hear like a grenade land, if you hear where it is, you know which way to jump or roll to get out of the way, right? So that's a big thing. Um, and in order to do that, like there's all this sound, there's chaos going on at any one time. So we have to really carefully figure out real time how to isolate what sounds you're hearing, so that you're getting as little of like the extraneous information as possible and as much of the important focused information as possible, so that you can make good real-time game time decisions, because otherwise you're going to get rolled. um, I'm not that good, so I get rolled a lot anyways, but at least the sound's telling me good stuff. So yeah, with Atmos, it's just like another place to put stuff in the mix that gets it out of the way from key speakers sometimes as well. So sometimes what we'll do is we'll be like, okay, we'll put some of the reverb up top, so then it's not cluttering as much as the surrounds. We can put certain ambient sounds up there, and of course we can do like bullet buys and flyovers and all that kind of stuff up there, and that can have a great impact on like making other parts of the mix more legible so people can understand what's going on. So that's part of it. But I I have yet to do music in Atmos. Um, it doesn't mean that you can't. We went actually and spent some time at Dolby Labs in San Francisco, and they kind of gave us like their lowdown on how to mix for Atmos. It was super cool, great crew. But they generally were not like in the context of like film or games. They generally suggest that music doesn't work so well up there unless it's like a small part of a track that's ambient, just to give it extra vertical space. But if you try and put the music up top, it becomes like a almost distracting. Unless you want to make it like, hey, I'm in a department store and I want to simulate the sounds of like those crappy speakers playing music over top, and that's a whole different thing. That's a thing you could do, right? So it's just a cool. It's another lever that we can play with as games get bigger and more complex, and we're constantly striving for ways to make things cooler for the audience. Sorry, that was a really long answer to a short question.
No, I mean
Prob-
that explains a lot, because I don't think a lot of people know what really goes into it from a composer standpoint. Do you know anything about the new 3D tech audio that the PS5 is talking about?
I have the very slightest idea, and I I don't really feel like I'm qualified to talk about it yet. I haven't dug in. I had a very like small demo of an early prototype of that audio, not the PS5, a little while ago, and it, from what I gather, it uses like binaural, um, and what's HRTF calculations. So HRTF stands for head related transfer function. I could be totally wrong, by the way. So I kind of feel like instead of hearing me talk, people should just go look it up and see what they're doing. But my vague memory is that they're using HRTFs, which basically simulate um, the distance between your ears and the way your head dampens audio. So what happens is if a sound plays over here, it reaches this ear first, and then the reflections on the other side reach this ear slightly later, and that's how we know where sound is in the world. That's how we calculate, and that's why our ears are shaped a certain way. It's like we roll off the frequencies behind us. That's what these parts of our ears do, and it's more open in front of us. And that way, it's like when you want to hear something properly, you turn towards it, and like basically these focus the sound in your ears. So I think that they're doing some calculations based on that. That's all I really know. So basically, that's me talking out of my butt. Go look it up.
Okay.
Can
I mean, that sure.
maybe? Yeah. So about that sound and the 3D stuff, right? I want to pick a little bit further on that. So did you play
Sure.
Hellblade?
You know what? I didn't, and I've downloaded it. It's on my virtual shelf of shame. It's on my list because I hear it's fantastic for that. Is that right?
Yeah. So basically, the sound in that it's with binaural microphones, right? And there's actually
Right.
people talking around you, and you hear the voices from different sides and over different things. So it's really amazing on that part. It's a little bit shame you didn't play it yet, but that's something as a sound designer and as a composer, right? I
Yeah.
think it's gonna be very interesting for you.
Yeah, I'm okay. It's definitely like it's on a rather shamefully long list right now. That includes like Control and why am I blanking? Oh my God, what was the new PS5 game that just came out? The Japanese
Ghost
one.
of Tsushima.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, and I haven't even played Death Stranding yet. Like I'm shamefully behind.
That's okay. I haven't played Death Stranding either. I mean, well, I rented it from Redbox and I played 5 minutes, but I bought it. But I got to a rock and like your character can actually like be in the world in the game, and I thought that was cool. But then I never went back to it after that.
That's awesome. I've had my bathroom break. I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Midway,
think
Crispin.
plants would grow too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
So I had a question about the Gears 4, how you went about the process of developing the score. Did you do specific like scores for characters? Did you just to get different emotions that you were looking for from the player, or certain like aspects where you
Yes.
wanted to like grab them?
So I'm gonna just like make sure we're on the same page. We're talking about Gears 5, right?
Yeah, either one.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so because I wasn't involved on Gears 4's music. I was sound design, but
Okay.
for Gears 5, I was the music director and co-composer. So that was and huge thanks to Johnny Morgan, who's the Gears audio director, for trusting me with that. Like that was like he took a leap of faith and let me have a go, and I'm forever grateful because it was like probably my favorite game I've ever done. Don't tell AJ. Yeah, it was so cool. But yeah, so the thing for me that I wanted to really nail with Gears 5 is like I felt like the prior Gears games had really strong themes in the music, and I wanted to get back to that. I felt like Gears 4 music was good, but the themes were kind of subtle and understated, and I wanted to be like, no, we're going to make a statement. And there's this incredible story that happens with Kate, and so I wanted to make sure that we're like, she gets her own theme. And so the main themes that I wanted and I want to be clear, Ramin Djawadi wrote these themes, but I came up with like, hey, these are the themes I want, and here's what they need to do. And then him being the genius that he is, he delivered. So there were two primary themes that I thought were critical to the game, and one was like what we call the family/fracture theme. So I don't know. I mean, Crispy, you've played lots of Gears. One of the things that I noticed as a fan is that there was this real theme of like everything starts out like just awful, like things are just shit. And like, like at the beginning of Gears 1, Marcus is in jail and his buddy breaks him out, and like the world is just falling apart in chaos. And then like, him and his buddy, and they meet Baird and they're all fighting and stuff. They hate each other. And by the end, they're kind of a family. And I noticed that pretty much with every one of the Gears games, there's always this like huge fracture, or there's a fracture at some point, but then there's always this kind of family vibe that comes together, whether it's like, Delta Squad, or if it's like, him and Anya, or like that whole crew, or Kate and her mom, or, even Kate and JD to some degree or whatever. It's this family thing. And so I thought we really need like that to be the overarching theme of Gears. And so, you hear that when you load up the game. That's the family theme right there. And the thing that I asked for is like, I want the family theme to also have the fracture theme built in. So it goes to a dark side, and then we separate them as different parts of the game. So like the fracture theme comes up when bad stuff happens, and then the family theme comes up when good stuff happens, or when stuff that happens like related to the family. Like, when a certain beloved character at the end dies, spoiler alert, we play the family theme in piano. And because it's like it's really about family. It's sad, but it's about the family. And so that's like one part of the themes, and then the other part of the themes is all about Kate. And potential other spoiler alert: Kate has a dark side to who she is and her history and where she's from and all of that, and we learn that throughout the game. So first we have the Kate theme, dark and light, and so her theme is strong, it's brave, it's loyal, it's caring, it's vulnerable. That's all these things that she is. Like she's an incredible character. And but then there's the dark side, which is the Locust's history, which is now the Swarm. And so we kind of like lean on that. And so anytime we're kind of digging into the Locust and the Swarm, we evoke that dark theme. And anytime we're digging into Kate and her heroism and just who she is as a character, we have the light side of her theme, and sometimes they come together. And that also comes if you head into campaign in the front end, it switches into her theme there. But you'll also hear it obviously in lots of different spots. And there's a big spot like right in, when they're at New Hope facility, deep under the ice, and she finds out her history, and who her mother is, or sorry, who her grandmother is. That's when her theme really kind of comes together, the dark and the light. And so it's like we kind of play them separately, and then we bring them together. Like, oh, that's okay, I get it. So it's all one thing. It's her. So that was the kind of vibe there. And then aside from that, we did, as I was mentioning before, like we evoked a lot of the prior themes from Gears. So and that I took a lot of that on myself, just because it's like I love those themes. So I was like, I want to do this music. So like when I did the Azura music, I put in the old Azura theme from Gears 3, but very subtle, almost like a ghost of the past. And similarly, when you're in the ice, like there's bits of the even the Omen theme, but the old Hope theme from Gears, like just woven in. And when you first enter the New Hope facility too, we actually play the Crimson Omen, because it's like you gotta, this is where it all kind of began. So we did that, and then we had a theme for the ice, like the cold part of the world, and then we had a theme for the desert, and they played into the greater story theme as well. The ice is all about the loneliness, because Delta Squad has been broken up. They've had a big fight. Kate and Del are all alone out in the wilderness. Nobody knows where JD is, even if he's alive or dead. And then once they kind of had this pivotal moment, Kate finds out who she is and what she's got to do. They start coming together, and then they go to the Vazgari desert, and everything is like red and fire and hot and full of purpose, and it's like, and that theme was built in that. And Ramin's team did that, and they killed both those themes. When you're flying around on the skimmer, it's such a cool experience.
Did you watch the gameplay first before you got into the music part of it? Like,
we watch as
watching it, and then I'll go ahead.
Yeah, so it's funny how gameplay works. So if I'm doing a film, I get a finished cut usually, and then I'm scoring straight to picture. With games, sometimes all I get is a picture, literally. Like, here's an Excel doc, and like here's a couple of pieces of concept art. Do this, okay, cool. Other times we'll get gameplay that's super rough, and it's all like it's all just like gray blocks and stuff, and you just kind of have to imagine and look at some concept art and be like, okay, I think it's going to be like this. And I think that's why it's really important to establish themes and connect them to story and to the art direction. Like early on in the process, because if everyone's moving in the same direction, you're going to end up with something more cohesive than if you just like hand a composer like, hey, here's some footage from the game, and it's just a bunch of gray blocks moving around, and like, I don't know, it's yeah, okay, I'll just make movement music, so it's yeah, we sometimes we get more finished stuff. It's always easier if you can like really see what's dialed in. But yeah, it's all over the map. So hope that answers the question. I'm gonna turn my phone off. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. You
Ruining the
mentioned.
show.
Wait, what'd you say, Midway?
I said you're ruining the show. Just kidding.
No.
I know, right? Who let this guy on?
Yeah, who let this down? Real quick, this might be a laughable moment for you, Crispin. When we interviewed Master Chief, his phone rang in the middle of the interview, and it was his agent about a project. So
That's amazing.
you're not the only one if a phone goes off or anything.
Well, I need to see if that's there's a project here. Hang on.
Oh,
No,
for 6
no,
maybe.
no, there's no project. No. Tell Master
Yeah,
Chief's
right,
agent to call me.
What? Gear 6 calling you? Gear 6 calling you?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, one thing I gotta comment on. I think Gears 5 has definitely brought back the roots of the games, and I do appreciate it as a Gears fan. I mean, especially with all the lore that was really packed into that game. A lot of people don't realize how much lore was in there, and I have to appreciate the attention to detail. Really awesome, and I hope you get more work with them.
Man, I am so glad you noticed that, and I know the whole team is like the entire team worked really hard to, pack as much lore as we could, and I got like we were. This is how nerdy we got about it. So if you watch the intro video with the credit roll and all that stuff, and you're basically going through a human body. There's even little like we got so nerdy about it. We were doing things like we put a set of cog tags in like under the water in the river of blood, and another set in one of the crystals in the wall. That was my idea. And it's like just like and little things like there's little things where like some of the cells would come together in certain ways, and if you look carefully just for a split second they actually make the locust symbol, and they're little things that they're blink if you miss, but this is how much that team loves what they do. Like they put so much love and thought into it. We all do. It's kind of like, it's kind of we feed off of each other. It gets really infectious, and that sounds bad in the time of COVID, but it was really cool to work on.
Try playing the Division.
What's that?
Right?
I said try playing the Division right now.
What's it like? Is it bad in the time of COVID, or is it?
The Division? You never play the Division? Ubisoft game?
I have not played the Division. I've heard good things.
Oh, yeah. Let's say
just say
it.
there's a lot of signs where they're telling you to wash your hands, avoid coughing.
Yeah.
All right.
They kind of predicted in the first division.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's interesting. Very interesting.
Sometimes games just predict things, and it's like unintentional. The way it does it, it just. I mean, it's art.
Yeah,
it's like what is it like?
Life imitates art.
Yeah, that's what it is.
You literally walk through hazmat areas where they're asking you to wear your PPE.
Wow.
Yeah, and also the Last of Us Part 2, they're changing the name of the Outbreak Day because of what happened with the virus. So
Wow. Okay, so that is like that's the first on my list of my shelf of shame that I haven't played yet, but I'm saving it for Halloween. So it's yeah, like I have friends that worked on that game, and I'm like so overdue to play it. It's like one of my favorite franchises ever. So no spoilers, please.
Yeah, I won't. Don't worry. I'm only maybe a half hour in. It's such a good game, but again, same like you. I have a backlog. I can't keep up with my backlog, Crispin. It's just so difficult.
It's a great time to be a gamer, really. Like like in the 90s, it's like there's 5 games. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. You were waiting for like
Final
a
Fantasy 2 was my jam.
Super Nintendo game to come out, and it was like there was a few that
Totally.
were that hot at the time, like Mortal Kombat. You know, you're like, yes, I got Mortal Kombat on Super NES or Genesis, and you're like, how long do I have to play this for the next thing drops? When's the next game?
Oh, I know, right? Yeah.
So I mean, we are very spoiled these days. We should be thankful for that. Um, I know that you mentioned that you also have worked on film and TV. Is there is there any films that come to mind where you really like the score that you did, or you have a favorite um musical score that you put into something?
I did the the most recent one I did is a film called The Shipment, and it's kind of like a little sci-fi. It's pretty short actually. It's like 40 minutes or something. Um, and it's got my buddy Alec Ponovic, who's a phenomenal actor. He's in like Snowpiercer and Van Helsing and a bunch of other stuff. He plays the lead, and it's pretty cool. It's almost like, you know, imagine like a if Han Solo was a single dad, trying to keep him and his daughter like out of trouble, and having to make hard decisions, that kind of vibe. So that was a great score, and it was one of my first scores that I got like an actual orchestra recording the music, and that was really cool. It was just a lovely experience all around. So I really liked that, but yeah, I love doing film, but I love doing games way more. It's just I'm way more passionate about games.
When it comes to games, that's a question I was gonna ask you anyway. When it comes to games, do they give you like a demo of the level, or do they give you like a sketch of the level and then say put some music to this? What do you think? Like, how does that work when they want you to do score for a level or a moment in a video game?
It's kind of like I said earlier, sometimes we get like what we call white box. So it's literally there's no textures on anything, and it's just a bunch of blocks that are put in place and some very basic game mechanics. And you're running around a thing that looks like, somebody did it in Unreal or Unity like last night and they were drunk. It's not really that bad, but compared to what it ends up looking like, it's night and day. And you just it's really hard to connect. Um, so sometimes we get that, and we'll take a video of that, and then just to kind of get the sense of like, here's what it feels like to move around the world, and then we keep looking at the concept art to be like, here's what it's eventually going to look like all dressed up. But just to get because we don't just ideally we're not writing to just the environment. Sometimes the musical character is like, hey, we want to really tell a story of the environment. Sometimes you really want to tell the story of like this character right now, and sometimes you really want to tell the story of like the enemies or the specific gameplay moment. And like, you guys have probably heard of this before, but we do a lot of interactive music. We even did it with the skimmer in Gears 5. When you slow down, the music just chills out, but as you speed up, it builds back up again, and so it's interactive with that in that way. And same with the combat. The music kind of like, jumps up a level depending on how many level or how many enemies and how dangerous they are. So if you've got a bunch of like cannon fodder guys, like just a bunch of like drones or juvies, the music is like, it's combat, but it's fairly chill. But if a carrier comes out, or like one of the big guns, the music kicks up a notch because it's like there's a real threat here. So we kind of we and if I'm honest, we probably could have done better on that implementation. But the goal is always to like help the player know what's going on without having to like constantly check their UI or a mini map, or just just to kind of have some subconscious idea of what's going on, whether it's with the story, a character, or with the gameplay.
Um, and if for any reason we go past your time, just let us know. Because I
All
think
good.
you're yeah, okay. You're in a different
We
time
can we can
zone.
we can we can keep going. No, it's all
Okay,
good.
good, good. I want to ask you this because I used to. This is a little known fact. Most people on this panel probably don't even know this. But when I was 17, I met Kid Rock through a buddy of mine named Kirk Dub, and I went out to
Wow.
Michigan, and I hung out with actually his babysitter. I stayed at his babysitter's house because he had a young child at the time, And I got to hang out with him, got to know him, got to know like some of the people that he hung around. This was before he really blew up with Atlantic Records, like right before Devil Without a Cause dropped. And
Okay.
essentially, I got to intern for Atlantic Records, and the guy's name who took me in as an intern was David Burrier. And I never had to go into the office or anything. He would just send me like tapes and stuff to hand out to like Sam Goodies, different music stores, record stores, like demo tapes, ask them to play it. And I did it, and I did very well. Atlantic Records loved me, and they kept sending me backstage. I got to be so many cool people at the age of 17, and they kept me on until
That's
the
awesome.
age. Yeah, I loved it, man. They kept me on till the age of like 23, and then David Burrier left Atlantic Records, and the next guy that took over just did not have a clue who I was and did not care to keep me on the intern label. But
Oh man, that sucks.
it was, yeah, David Burrier offered me a job, and I turned it down because I was too nervous to take the subway to New York City to work for Atlantic Records. It's hindsight now, and like, man, that would have been an opportunity, huh? But the one
You
thing I
know,
did.
I hear you
Oh,
on
go
the
ahead.
hindsight. Keep going. Sorry. No, you go ahead. This is yours
Um,
is way more interesting.
there's one thing I did learn though, working at Atlantic Records, because he actually asked me to read several different books at the time. And in one of them, I learned that music is kind of like a science, right? And when it comes to
Hmm.
record labels wanting to score movies or wanting to score um, different things on the radio or how they want their placements, it's all based on emotion. And this got me thinking because several years later, I heard on the radio from another DJ where they were talking about the science of like horror movies and how like the beats change and the beats are different to get you all pumped up, and then it's like there's a
Absolutely.
slowdown and then a shock moment. So
Yeah.
from your perspective as a composer, did you ever use science or anything like that to help boost an emotion?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely stuff that we've done in terms of like, so one of the reasons 120 BPM is so popular is it's like, well, it's 2 beats a second. But it's also works really well with the pace of somebody walking with determination. That's like if you're walking, like I'm going to go somewhere, and I'm not like rushing, but I'm not dawdling. I'm going somewhere now. Um, you walk at 120 beats a minute roughly. So that's a reason why that's like the default tempo in any sequencer. And we use stuff all the time, not just in music, but in sound design, like psychoacoustics to trick the player, all that stuff that Flamish was talking about with um, Hellblade, them doing all the binaural, stuff. There, one of the reasons why I am such a huge fan of sound and music, there's this classic Spielberg quote, okay, and sometimes it's attributed to Spielberg, and sometimes it's attributed to oh god, I'm drawing a blank right now. Another major director from that era. Um, doesn't matter.
Scorsese.
It just sound and music is more than 50% of the audience experience. And some people would argue that that's not true. I don't really care. It is for me. It makes a huge difference. And it one of the reasons is that um, there's multiple reasons. So if you look at human speech, uh, it is the thing that unless if we're lucky enough to have hearing, it is the thing that we are the most completely attuned to, most subconsciously and effortlessly attuned to. And that is one of the reasons why when you hear dialogue in the game that sounds bad or sounds robotic or sounds off, it's just like, oh god, it sounds so bad. It's uncanny valley. It just sounds fake, right? You know right away. You know right away when it's wrong. And games that do it really well, like for instance, Last of Us, they do dialogue really, really well. It feels natural, and you believe more because it feels natural. And the way our ears work is like they're, for tens of thousands, sorry, hundreds of thousands of years, they have been a survival mechanism for us. Like saber-tooth tiger right behind you. Oh my God, you don't know that if you don't have ears. And we're super attuned to, like, your eyes only see front, they only see what direction they are, but your ears hear all around you and they can tell you where stuff is around you. So they are heavily tied to your emotions because they need to be. In other words, like saber-toothed tiger behind you, hey, ears are telling me that I got to be scared now because I got to get a big shot of adrenaline to run for my life. And or like you're hearing the voice of someone you care about, it's going to make you feel different. And you hear music like all the music, all of our hearing range is actually attuned to mostly to our vocal range. And things that are outside of our normal vocal range have a very different effect, which is one of the reasons why subwoofers, low frequency effects, are so effective, is because you don't hear stuff um, as part of our normal communication modes in those frequencies, but you feel stuff like that all the time. Like it could be a truck goes by and the whole thing's rumbling, or a strike of thunder, or you land, you jump and you land with your feet. You feel it through your whole body, but you're also hearing it at that frequency, and so it has a very different meaning to us than a lot of the other sounds we hear. Like if we're just talking about how frequencies are split up. So if from a scientific perspective, I'm kind of using that loosely, but we rely on that stuff all the time because it's really, we see ourselves very much as the emotional directors of whatever the experience is. Although, the art teams and the lighting teams would definitely lay claim to that title, and rightly so as well. But we work very much in terms of how to manipulate emotions and the kinds of things that make people feel certain things, and as you said, like having like the tempo increase, it makes you feel tense, or it makes you feel more excited, and if you hear like for instance, when we hear music that's consonant, as in that sounds not dissonant, it's nice, you feel certain things, and as soon as you start adding dissonant, it starts to feel like something's wrong. And people use that all the time in horror or even in a dramatic scene to add tension. And so, yeah, I guess that is science in a way, but it's the science of emotion and how we relate to it.
Yeah, and some of the things I remember is just even as a kid, like going in the movie theater, you would hear like well, I think Sandlot did this pretty well too, but you would hear like moments where there's like a hero or a legend on screen and it pumped you up, and then there were moments where something tragic would happen and the music almost made you feel like that you wanted to cry. Like the music brings out such a
Absolutely.
strong emotion. And out of curiosity, I actually have muted movies where the music was very emotional to see if I had the same experience. Completely different experience without the music there.
Yep.
It's a whole different experience. Music is so valuable to us, I think, as humans, that we don't even realize that we just take it for granted. But there is a whole thing about music and our emotions and what it does for us. It's just, I mean, it's amazing though, as a composer, that you lock onto these things and you even know like beats per minute, how to do that. I mean, it just blows my mind because I'm sure it took a lot of practice, and I'm sure it took a lot of like knowledge, getting to know things and getting it just right the way that you wanted it. Because it's like at the end of the day, it's your art and you want it to be great, to your perspective, and that's what makes art unique. And I think music is one of the greatest arts of all time.
I can't disagree with you there. Yeah, no, you're totally right, man. It really is about emotion, and like, you talk about sometimes music makes you want to cry. Like that's my ultimate goal. I want to make you cry. I'm a jerk. I'm an asshole. I just want to make everybody cry. So, and it's like
Yeah.
whether it's tears of joy or like tears of like like victory, or just like, oh God, this is so sad right now. And my one of our biggest goals on Gears 5 was to like, there's a couple spots in that game where we want people to cry. We want people to be like, oh my God, like my heart just got torn out, and I we read some of the YouTube comments and we succeeded in some cases. So, that's cool. But yeah, it's always, the reason for me is that every time I've played a game that made me really feel, it's unforgettable, and that's the stuff I aspire to make. There's like, I'm trying to remember, I think the first game that made me cry was a game called Grim Fandango, late 90s, LucasArts game. And the ending, I was just like, oh my God, like, I've just been on this big journey, and oh my god, I'm home. It was like really powerful, and it was the first time that it really hit me that like a game could make me truly feel. And I was at that point, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to make people feel like I want to leave a lasting impression, and like people look back and go like, oh yeah, that was so cool. Like one of my favorite games of the last generation is Horizon Zero Dawn. And the ending to that game, like I'm not ashamed to say it, I bawled my eyes out. Like that was astonishing when she finds herself, her like basically her who she was. God, I kind of don't want to spoil it, but it's been out for a long time. So basically, when she finds who she was cloned from, and like it's just surrounded by flowers after this incredible journey to discover like who she is, and where she come from and what she's had to do, is like I was blown away. And the music on that game is some of the best music I've ever heard in a game, period. It's like, yeah, I think it was I want to say it was Jesper Kid, but I feel like that's wrong. Do you guys know off the top of your head?
No, I don't.
No, but thank you. I don't have to finish the game again.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. No, it's not Jesper Kid at all. Jesper Kid is great. No, it's Joris de Man. Joris de Man is an absolute effing titan as a composer. He's always doing something like really inventive and cool and interesting. And like if I can ever get half as good as him, I will be like, I'm good. I'm job done. I can like sign off and have a drink.
Kind of going on off that what you just said there, including the great Connect Sports Season 2. It seems like you you do a lot of action-based video games. Is that something that you've always wanted to do, or were you typed into it?
It honestly, it's been all over the map. But yeah, I definitely. Ultimately, my favorite games are games with story. Like I love storytelling. I love world building. It's my jam. Because that's the stuff that's always memorable for me. And like, I worked on Need for Speed and NBA Live and a bunch of EA Sports games for years, and they were super fun. But I never connected to them in the same way as I did when I started working on story based stuff. And that's like, yeah, that's my passion. So it doesn't have to be action. It just has to be a compelling story that's going to make me feel. But I do like the action, because I like, for me, when I play games, it's a vacation, and I also like, get to like shoot or stab my problems.
Nice.
Were you a part of adding music to the multiplayer of Gears 5? Because it did that, I believe, in Operation 3. Especially when you're at the last 5, it kind of brings a new gravity to the situation. Like, it's all or nothing type thing.
Yes. Yeah, we did that. Now I'm happy because we shipped a year ago. So if it was in there a year ago, yes, I was. They may have done something else since that I was not a part of. So my team is still working on Gears. I've been working on other stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, but yeah, but I do remember we did a thing where like once you got to a certain level in multiplayer, we changed the music.
Yeah, I like that touch. At first I didn't, but I as it became more
It's a little bit of like, hey, where did this come from?
Yeah. I mean, at first you're like, oh, and all you gotta do is lower the music level a little bit. I've actually told somebody, I'm like, just lower it a little bit, because like it's always at 10. You start off at 10, and it's like, man, I can't even hear who's behind me, like type thing. So, but after, yeah, I warmed up to it definitely.
Oh wait. Are you talking about Escape, or which mode are you talking?
Oh, because they might have done it on the back end, maybe just used what you guys already had, but more like, I believe team deathmatch, it's the last 5. If you're the last 5 on your team, you start hearing a score come in that really kind of just makes you feel like it's overtime type thing. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I
did not do that. I had no part of that. I had a part of like vaguely recall we changed music, and I think it was all related to Escape, frankly, the further you got. Um, God, I'm totally drawing a blank now, but I don't think I added anything to Deathmatch. So I think that must have been somebody on the team. Uh, and they're always doing stuff. They're always adding and changing. They're always trying to improve. Like, I gotta say, like, that team, they love you guys. They love the fans, and they will do. They work overtime, and quite literally overtime. We worked some crazy hours getting that game out the door to make everybody happy. Like that. I I've worked on a lot of teams over the. I've been doing this for 25 years. This team is one of the teams that cares the most out of any team I've ever worked with. It's so cool. So this is not sorry.
You should play Gears 3 yet? Gears 3 will get you. I won't even ruin it for you.
Yeah, I know.
I
we
feel
still
like
need
it's
to
time
play
for
it.
another run through.
Yeah, right.
After talking with Crispin here, I feel like it's time for another run through of the Gears saga.
Crispin, what's actually your worst project?
Oh God.
Do you
I
have
love that
friends on this project?
Oh, that's a tough one. I got to think about that for a minute. There have been some doozies, that's for sure. I'm not gonna name names because I just think that's like, a project can be terrible
Yeah, that's
for like
corporate
failings
suicide.
on multiple levels, and sometimes people are new, or sometimes people are just like not in a good headspace or whatever. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do terrible things for the rest of their career. Just people have bad days sometimes, but sometimes those bad days can like bring down an entire team.
Yeah, but let me rephrase the question differently, right? For your own sake, like you didn't like the project yourself, like you
I
didn't
didn't like the game.
Yeah, the game, the project itself, like that you needed to do these sounds, but you're not really into that stuff or something.
Gotcha.
Like it just didn't feel the right project for you.
Ooh.
And why?
That's a really tough one because I usually
Connect Sports. Just kidding.
It's funny because like I loved that experience so much, but I don't really like making sports games. When I worked on NBA Live back in the 90s, I didn't love doing it because I just didn't connect to it. Like it's not like it was cool. I learned a lot. I loved the team, and I actually got into basketball, which I wasn't really into before. But it just like I wasn't super excited about working on those sounds or working on that dialogue. I did a lot of dialogue work on that one, but if I had to do it again, like I'd do it because the team was so rad, But I'd say that was like definitely one that I wasn't as big of a fan of. Like the game, like it's not a game that I would ever pick up and play. Just not into sports games. I'm way more of like a nerdy story guy. So yeah, I think that's it. And it's funny, like Connect Sports, I actually was just like, okay, I'm gonna work on a sports game. It's not my normal jam, but then I got into it. I was like, oh my god, these guys made sports crazy fun. And after like while we were working on it, so I was on Connect Sports 2, but we were, Connect Sports 1 was already out, and I had an Xbox 360 with Connect. So I'd have friends over. I wasn't telling them that I was working on the second one, but we'd play Connect Sports and we'd have a blast. That game was so much fun. So like, and they put that classic rare whimsy into it. So like, I loved working on that game. That was a riot. Even though like again, not huge on sports games, but that was cool. But yeah, if I had to pick one that I was just like, yeah, I'm not that into this, I guess it would be NBA. But I feel like with any single game you work on, you can always find something to love about it. And I think that's the thing you have to do. Like, sometimes I've worked on corporate videos before. Like we still help Microsoft out with like stuff for HoloLens sometimes. And it's like, that's not my normal jam, but you can be like, you know what? They're doing some really cool stuff here. All right, I'm gonna get excited about this. I'm gonna make it sing. It's so I think that if you're curious um, there's always a way to find like things to care about.
Agreed.
Okay. Yeah, that's the best way to go on with your job, I think, to find the things that you care about in your project that you're doing. Because if you're just doing something that you don't like, you're not gonna do it for long. I
Yeah,
mean,
you're gonna phone it in, and nobody wants that.
yeah, and uh, I do feel like when I hear you, there's a lot of passion in what you're doing and so on. So I think it's really great to talk to you in the first place. Like, it's really great to have an insight in all this stuff. Like in the because we hear a lot of like developers and stuff. We don't really hear about the sound guy behind the developers, like how the sounds get created and stuff. That's a little bit like more in the back of people's minds. They don't really think about that stuff a lot.
You guys, I recommend interviewing more because some of the audio stuff is so much fun and so cool. So I'll give you some examples. Like um, when we were working on Need for Speed, we were like, okay, we don't have enough cool collision sounds, and we had like a single car door with a window that we'd bring into the studio, and we'd beat the crap out of it. And it's like it's okay, and we were like, okay, we got to do something. So we basically, this is back in the '90s. We basically phoned up a bunch of auto wreckers, and we found this one dude, and I was like, hey man, if we bring you some free games and like a big bag of weed and some beers, can we come and wreck stuff in your wrecking yard? And he's like, oh yeah man, come on by. And so we come up, and he's basically waiting for us, and he hands us like crowbars and stuff, and we go out with microphones and we beat the crap out of everything. But then we're like, well, yeah, this is pretty cool. He's like, you guys want me to drop a car on another car? We're like, yeah. So he lifted a van up on a crane and dropped it on another car for us. So we put microphones inside the car that was getting dropped on. It was epic. So we had a whole bunch of that. We had a blast. We were there till like 3 a.m, just like blowing stuff up. And like other times we've done, like they sent me to Stuttgart to record Porsches at the test track and at Zuffenhausen at their facility. I got to record a Porsche Boxster before they were ever released on the market, like the first. And I blew up the engine. I was not very popular. And what else we do? We record gunfire and explosions. Like, so if you can get time with a guy named Charles Deenan. That guy has been making games since the 80s, since Commodore 64. He is one of the most prolific, brilliant, talented sound designers, and he used to be an incredible composer too. He's more focused on sound design now, but he's an absolute beast. And his company, Source Sound, they do all the Gears trailers. They do all the Call of Duty trailers. Like basically any massive trailer you see, it's probably done by them. And he is absolutely brilliant. He's Dutch, and yeah, just super passionate and very, very generous with his knowledge. And he's been a mentor to me for years. I worked directly under him at EA Black Box back in 2009, and I learned more. I learned more in like 11 months working with him than I'd learned in the past 5 years. It was so cool, and yeah, the stuff that they do to record is nuts. I did a project with them called Mars 2030, where we were doing like a VR game simulating like, hey, you're on Mars with the Mars rover, and it's literally the Mars 2030 project and what it might look like. And they went to JPL, like the Jet Propulsion Laboratories, and recorded the actual Mars rover with a whole bunch of microphones. And I got to like play with it and mix it and like drop it in the game. And those guys do crazy stuff, and you should. They have tons of YouTube videos about like recording cars and gunfire and explosions, and yeah, check them out. It's good stuff.
I just thought of a question that probably I wouldn't have thought of unless my dog did this. Have you ever had a moment where you had a blooper yourself, or like a hiccup in something, and you're like, oh crap, something's going wrong, I need to fix it right away?
Endlessly, all the time.
So you know what it's like.
Oh my God, yeah. Don't feel bad, man. Yeah, we so we have lots of fun too. I'm a voice director as well, so I've gotten to work with some amazing actors. Um, the ones who tend to be the most fun are the voice actors like Nolan North, who played Drake in Uncharted, and a whole bunch of other stuff, and Laura. Oh my God, why I'm being a total jerk and forgetting her last
Bailey.
name. Thank you. Who plays Kate? I never actually got to direct her personally, but that whole crew, the guy who plays JD, Liam McIntyre, he's a buddy because we worked on a prior game together, and I was actually the one who recommended him for JD for Gears 4, and he is an absolute riot to work with. And the number of bloopers that we have during the recording sessions, they're hilarious. And we just go off the rails and we like play off each other and stuff. Super fun. And I got to record. So I was working on the Dark Knight game in 2007, 2008 that got canceled, sadly. But I got to direct. Yeah, it was pretty cool, man. It was leading up to be a pretty amazing game. And I got to direct Christian Bale and Morgan Freeman and Gary Oldman and Michael Caine. And working closely with those guys was quite something. Gary Oldman was incredible. That guy is
he's a great actor.
He's an amazing guy to talk to. Like, he's a really very, very sharp cat. Morgan Freeman was hilarious. Sorry, go ahead.
Which part of the trilogy was it? Was it with Heath Ledger?
Yeah, it was The Dark Knight. Yeah, it was the second one. So,
okay.
And this is one of the things that led to our demise, sadly, is that Heath died before our first recording. We were literally scheduled to record with him, and he passed away beforehand. So we never got to. So we were trying to figure out, like, how do we make a Dark Knight game without the Joker? So we were trying to, okay, we got to find a sound alike, and then we were like, oh, maybe we should use Mark Hamill, but Mark Hamill was already working on the Arkham series, so it was like that was not going to work. It was a crazy time, but yeah,
it's heartbreaking. It just
sounds
it
was heartbreaking.
Could have been a pretty good. You know who could have been a good Joker substitute? Mr. John DiMaggio.
I never thought of that, actually. I mean,
he did the Joker for, if you ever seen the animated movie Under the Red Hood.
No, I had no idea. I mean, he's an incredible actor. I've never got to work with him either. Like, it's I'm sad to say, like, that the current Gears cast are awesome, and I've met all of them except for John, but I never got to work with him, and that makes me really sad.
I do want to say, Clownz, do you see it in chat?
Yeah, Infinite, he's a really good friend of the show, Crispin, and he's a fan of a lot of stuff what we do, and he's a podcaster too. He made a super chat donation and said, 2 crisps in one show, take my money.
That's awesome. I love it.
I'm just throwing this out there, Crispin, since you're a voice director. My voice is free to use. If you ever need like a free intern, I can.
Awesome.
You have my voice. I may not be the greatest or the best, but you have my voice. So it's there.
Does Boom say all the time? What does Boom say all the time to me?
Yeah, like, you can have my voice too if you want.
That's fantastic.
Oh, I love doing little voices and stuff.
Right? It's like the things that was like another thing that was like, I got to get into games because, as kids at the table. So I actually grew up in the UK. Until I was 8, I had a British accent. And, in England, you walk 10 feet and the accents change. It's crazy. And people know exactly where you're from by how you speak, and they have opinions about it. And then when I came to Canada, it's like, the little kid with the English accent was like, well, that kid's going to get beat up. So you very quickly learn a Canadian accent. So I learned to change accents pretty quickly. But me and my little brother, we would just to tee my mom off, we'd just like make all the accents at the dinner table all the time, and she'd be like, "Will you stop that?" What's that,
Oh,
mum?
that's
You want us
awesome.
to stop making accents? It's just like that was actually a terrible accent, but like games are awesome because there's just voices all the time, and yes, I totally do sneak my voice into games often.
Oh,
Give an
that is
example.
awesome. Yeah, I gotta go
Because
listen to some of this now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in Gears 4, when you fight at the Anvil Gate, there's a whole bunch of people screaming like they're all wounded and stuff, and like a bunch of them are just me, and I totally snuck that in.
Oh, that's cool. I
I was
remember
gonna
that
Yeah.
ask
scene
how
very
many
well.
like little Easter eggs you put in your composing.
We always try to put Easter eggs in games because it's just like, because why not, right? It's awesome. It's a fun thing, and like people get excited about it. And then there's some things that are less Easter eggy, but more like, I can't believe we got to put that in there. So like if you played through Gears 5, like the theater battle where the big band music. So I wrote that music, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but that music actually takes all of the themes from Gears 1 all the way through 5 and recapitulates them. So if you listen, like it's mostly Gears 5 themes, but it has like da 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 da. That's old Gears themes. So take a listen, and you'll be able to pick them out. That was a
Oh, you
Oh,
blast.
got me wanting to go back now. Oh boy.
I'm gonna end up playing
Might
through the
have a
whole
rabbit
Gears
hole.
series all over again because of the stuff that we talked about during the show. It's just been amazing, like talking about this stuff. We have a question in the chat. Infinite asks, "Where are you from?" Because you don't sound like UK English.
Yeah, well, like I said, my accent became very Canadian, like because I've lived here since I was 8. But I was from Cornwall, down in the West Country. I didn't have a Cornish accent, mind you, but I can do one. And yeah, and my accent, it's really weird. Um, I have a recording on a cassette tape from a million years ago. I think I was like maybe 5 or 6, and my dad's playing guitar, and I'm like slowly murdering a harmonica, and it sounds horrifying. And at the end, it's just like, "Can we do that one again, Daddy?" "All right, love," and that's it.
That's
So that's
awesome.
yeah.
This is
That's
awesome.
that's what I used to sound like, which is why I got beat up a lot when I got to Canada.
Oh wow.
I
I thought
Yeah.
I did not
I
skip
thought it
them.
was nice in Canada.
Oh
Just for the
man, have you
game?
seen
No.
us play hockey? Are you kidding me? No, the playground is a rough place in Canada.
Um, growing up, Crispin, my dad was from Italy, so he was from Mola d'Abate, which is like a little bit southern Italy, but it's not like Sicily. It's like towards the heel of the boot
Okay.
across the coastal line. And growing up, when he came over to America at 14, so he always had his thick Italian accent, but he grew up in Brooklyn, so he had like a broken Italian Brooklyn
Brooklyn. Oh man, I'd
accent.
love to hear that.
And when I was growing up, I used to be able to imitate it so perfectly because I was around it all the time. So
Can you
like,
do it now?
oh man, I gotta try. Hey, forget about it. What are you talking about over there?
Oh, that's great.
Classic.
My best friend is Sicilian, so he imitates his dad all the time, and
Oh,
it's classic.
that's gotta be great, man. It's gotta be
Yeah.
great.
I can't do it and be safe for work. I can't do it without dropping an F-bomb or two. So I'm
Yep.
not going to do it right now. But it's so, and his dad's the sweetest guy too.
My grandpa, he never really spoke proper English. He always spoke like a thick, like Italian with a little bit of New York accent, and he always be like, "Manage gemino, manja, manja, manja." Like he'd always just scream at me at the dinner table, and I'd be so scared. I'd be like, "What's Grandpa saying? Is he yelling at me?" And my dad would be like, "No, he means eat your spaghetti. He wants you
Yeah,
to eat."
totally. Okay, I gotta tell a very quick story about my first dinner at Dino's place. So Dino DeNicolo, my best friend, crazy talented musician. Look him up. Um, I went to his place for dinner in high school, or at the end of high school, or whenever it was, and I seriously thought that I was going to have to call the cops for a domestic dispute because his parents were yelling and like shaking their hands at each other in Italian, and it was just how they talk. And I was just like, and I was so stressed out because if my parents were yelling, it meant something really bad was going on, right? It's because they're English, and yeah, and I just was like, so I was pretty tense, and like his mom's like serving us spaghetti, and like in the middle of trying to serve us the spaghetti, his dad goes, "Hey, come on, give the boy more. He's a growing boy." And she like drops the plate, she drops the spoon, looks at him, and looks at me. She's like, "In 25 years we've been married, he thinks I don't know how to feed my guests." And I was like, and that was when I knew that everything was okay. That was when I knew it was all love. It was all just joking around, and they were just taking the piss out of each other. And I was like, okay, I love this family. And I was like, yeah. And like every time I go over there, it's like the war to see who can stuff the most food in my face. It's like the best thing ever.
Oh, that's great, man. Yeah, I grew up in the restaurant business myself. My dad owned a couple pizza places. My uncle is actually still in the business of pizza places, and all my cousins. I'm the only one that chose not to follow the family business. It just wasn't my dream. Like the long hours, I just couldn't do it, man. It just wasn't my thing. But there is a huge difference, like you said, when Italians get like really upset, like straight off the boat from Italy. Like the way that my dad and my uncle move their hands is how I can tell who's
If it's
upset.
serious or not.
Yeah, like if it's like closer together, they're like more tension, like more angry, like they want to smack one of my cousins. And if the arms are more spread out, it's more like, "Oh, what? I didn't know that." So
Yeah, yeah.
so I learned to pick up on those signs as a kid because my dad never let me learn Italian. He was always afraid I'd go back to my mom and tell my mom what I heard in the pizza places. So he didn't want me telling her what his friends from Italy were discussing, and who knows what it could have been, like girls, like girls coming in and out of the pizza places or something like that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, man, I
Man,
got
why
some
was my
stories,
family so
Crispin.
American?
That is awesome.
Yeah, I think
Why was
Clownz
my
is one
family
of the
so
guys.
American?
Yeah. I don't know. No, Clownz,
Look, I'm
Clownz
from
is one
Belgium.
of.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I'm totally different culture as well.
Absolutely.
No. Yeah, but Clownz is one of those guys. He has like the most amazing stories. He really grew up in an Italian neighborhood, I would say, like in Brooklyn, right, Clownz?
No, I was lucky. My dad moved out of New York City. I grew up in the suburbs in Pennsylvania outside of Philadelphia,
Okay.
but we would go back constantly to Brooklyn as a kid. And
Hell's Kitchen.
no, Hell's Kitchen is not was not the part we went to. No. But even at a young age, Crispin, like there were so many things that were like still very Italian for us growing up. Like for example, it wasn't a cousin of mine, right? But it was like almost like a sixth cousin removed through marriage kind of situation. And she was the same age as me. They at the age of like 6, they wanted me to dance with her and get to know her because they wanted her to be my future wife.
Oh man, the pressure.
Yeah, it was,
Wow.
and I used to be so embarrassed and so shy because she would always kiss me on the cheek, and at 6 years old, I thought she was very pretty, so I'd go run and hide outside or hide underneath the table and just run away.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Crispin, I think it's almost time for you to go.
I do have to
your
go, guys, and I don't want to because this has been such an awesome chat, and I really appreciate you guys for having me on.
It's our pleasure,
Appreciate
man.
it.
This is amazing.
You're
Yeah,
always
a lot
of
welcome to
insight,
come
man.
back as well. So
Well, you say the word, and I'll come back. If you guys have other questions, I'd be happy to come and chat again. Like it's cool, and yeah, I want to hear more about what games you guys love and stuff. Because like we're all gamers here, obviously, and yeah, it's just good to hang out and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This was an honor, man. Honor.
Update your IMDb.
And I'm so sorry about my dog pulling that internet cord, man.
Oh, dude, don't even worry about it, man. That's like, I have had way worse stuff happens. It's like I've had my internet literally go down in the middle of like a critical upload to a client that they're waiting, and then like, having to deal with them on the phone, like yelling at me, like, "Where is it?" I'm like, "My internet just went down," like,
Oh man.
"Oh my god, like I gotta like run a drive over, or something." It's crazy stuff that happens all the time. Like, to be honest, you keep bringing it up, but I forgot about it, like, like 5 minutes after it happened. So don't worry about it at all.
All right, man. Well, I mean, I guess that's one way you'll never forget us, right? You can always tell that story. I was in an interview once, and some guy's dog pulled out his internet cable.
Like it didn't even, dude, man, it didn't even register. Like we have this all the time, and like, because right now, in the time of COVID, all our meetings are like on Google Hangouts or Teams or Zoom or whatever, and we use Discord sometimes. Somebody's internet is always going down, or something's always happening. It's like a daily occurrence. So it's like, do not sweat it.
Well, like like Flamish said, you have a time limit and you got a lot of stuff to do. You're a busy guy, but can you tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, you can check out my website, lionsheadpro.com, which is kind of like the worst URL ever. But lionshead.com was taken, and yeah, it still is, sadly. But yeah, basically Lionshead, add a pro as in production on the end, and .com, and there you go. I'm Crispotron on Twitter and Instagram. I'm not on Twitter much. I'm trying to be better about it. I've been pretty bad with social media over the last while. And I actually just started a new Instagram called Lionshead Audio, that's going to get lots of updates with like daily stuff, and like, me being like a dork recording in the studio and stuff, and just for people who are kind of into checking that kind of stuff out. So
All right.
Awesome.
yeah, and I can send you guys like actual texts, so you guys can link it beneath the YouTube video if you want, if that's helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would
absolutely.
be great. Yeah.
Awesome.
And real quick, Crispy, can you tell people where they can find you?
Crispybomb on Twitter. And yeah, I mean, all the shows that I'm usually on: RetroRenegades 7 p.m., next podcast Thursday 7 p.m., and Breakfast with Boom 10 a.m. Fridays.
Midway Monster?
They can find out too.
What?
I said they can find out Tuesday.
Oh, okay. Yep, that's true. Four
Okay.
guys recording. Yeah, four guys recording.
If you want to see me and get to know all my Twitter information, come see us at Four Guys with Quarters on Tuesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central.
Nice.
Nice.
Flamish,
you.
where can people find you?
Yeah, so first of all, on 4GQ TV on this channel, of course, and then I have my Sunday show, The Flamish Experience, on 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and then I also have RetroRenegades Tuesday at 7 p.m. So
Okay. And everybody can find me at Italian Clownz below my name here. Sorry for all the hiccups, but we got through it, and yeah. See you guys later.
Guys,
yeah,
thanks
see you
again.
guys.
See you guys.
Have a
Thank you,
great
sir.
weekend.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Good one.
Okay, let me first stop the recording.
Hold on, guys. For some reason, my OBS is not responding, so it's still rolling live. Let me
We're
see
still
if I can-
rolling live. Okay.
I'm gonna try to manually shut this off.
You need to go to the you can go to the YouTube stuff, Clownz, and actually in the black YouTube box where you have the key, you can actually turn it off as well. But if you're restreaming, that probably means that Twitch is still streaming as well.
Let me see if I can go to the restream dashboard. So, a lot of you guys that are still watching, just some technical difficulties today. So sorry about the mess that happened with my dog and the stream not stopping. As you can see, Flamish smile and look at you guys nicely. So he is there, as always. I
It was
think my
nice.
dog?
This was really fun.
Just try
What
to
fam-
force